What it means to be human means that you are unique. You are different. You can't let your differences stop you. Your differences are not something you should be ashamed of. If you spend all your time hating who you are and trying to change it, you will waste your life away. Through the course of these 7 texts, the theme of being different defines what it means to be human, but it's not very obvious. However, it is present and an important part of 3 texts that we have seen. Throughout this course, we have analyzed quotes and looked at the deeper meaning of each of the texts. As I look back on all I have discovered, this affects me the most because I realize how hard it can be for everyone to express their differences in a positive way. At times, you may want to simply fit in, but as the saying goes, why fit in when you were born to stand out? Through the struggles that the monster in Frankenstein faces due to his creation, the hardship that of Mary Jane faces, trying to escape her home and escape herself, and the confidence that Gilgamesh has in himself, has taught me that being true to who you are is the best thing you can be. From the beginning, the monster Frankenstein created was ashamed of himself. Frankenstein had hated the monster just because he looked differently. He gave the monster no chance to show who he truly was and how kind he could be. Because of this neglect, the monster tried so hard to not be who he actually was because he was too ashamed of himself. As the story progresses, we see that the hideous creature that Frankenstein sees does not reflect who the monster is. When the story is flipped and we see the monster's perspective, we see that deep down, the monster was kind and gentle. While watching the family in the woods, he learns emotions. When the family was unhappy, he felt depressed. When they rejoiced, he sympathized in their joys. When he was not angry at the world for what he did not have, you could see how generous he was, especially when he brought the family the wood he had collected. One of the other important parts of Frankenstein that reflects this theme is when the old man had a talk with the monster. Since the old man was blind, he could not see what he looked like, and therefore based his decision on the monster's character. He said, "There is something in your words which persuades me that you are sincere." This shows that it does not matter what's on the outside, but what's on the inside that counts. One of the tragedies of Frankenstein is the refusal of other characters in the novel to recognize the monster as a full human being. The other characters refuse to recognize this because this monster simply does not look like the other humans in the story. He is mentioned multiple times from other characters as an ugly wretch, and people scream at the sight of him. This directly relates to the real world because many people are not treated with respect just because they look differently. Whether it be the color of their skin or if they have a disability, some individuals treat them as if they are not human beings. Reading this novel, it sounds crazy that people do not accept the monster, for we see that he has feelings and just wants someone to care about him. His differences and emotions are what made him human, not what he looked like or what he had. This is why we must accept our differences and learn how to better ourselves as people, because what's on the inside is what really matters. In the complete Persepolis, there are examples of pretending to be someone you're not, and examples of being true to yourself. Due to the strict rules in Iran, the government tried to make everyone the same, boring clone. There were strict rules about expressing yourself, and dress codes were put in order. In the beginning, it is easy to see that Marjane does not follow rules, or like to stick in. She likes being different. Deep down at heart, you see Mary Jane fantasize about American pop culture and the clothes people wore. She loved this because the people were able to express who they were, while she had to wear the veil, even though, as she put, we really didn't like to wear the veil, especially since we didn't understand why we had to. She did not let rules define who she is. She acted how she wanted to. We also see how sometimes it can be hard to be who you really are, especially when society is so used to the same thing. The courtship between Marjane's neighbor and her maid was a prime example of how hard it can really be. When the neighbor found out that Mary was only the maid and not the daughter, the neighbor no longer talked to the maid, and even gave all the love letters he had gotten to Mary Jane's father. No matter how much he cared about Mary, it was not worth it to break the social classes, because in this country you must stay within your social class. Even though he loved Mary, because it was different, he let others in the community define who he got to love, and essentially defined his happiness. When Mary Jane goes to Austria, she battles with loving who she is and hating who she is. In the beginning, she embraces that all of her new friends were different. She states that they consisted of an eccentric punk, 2 orphans, and a third worlder, showing that they had all different ways of not only expressing themselves, but being who they really were. Shortly after, she loses herself when she becomes embarrassed of where she's from, who her family is, and essentially who she is. She tries to stay under the radar by fitting in, but you can realize that she is not happy this way. Finally, when one of the nuns at school insulted Iranians' education, she said back to them, "You were all prostitutes before becoming nuns," in order to stand up for herself, who she is, and her country. Finally, the Epic of Gilgamesh shows that being confident in who you are and not doubting yourself will take you anywhere. In the beginning of the story, Gilgamesh acknowledges himself as a powerful god. He is confident, and by reading the epic, it gave me confidence in him, that he could complete anything he set his mind to. When Enkidu confronts Gilgamesh about being scared about the difficult journey, Gilgamesh comforts him. Gilgamesh says to Enkidu, "Your heart is tried and tested in combat," because he believes that after all Enkidu has gone through, there isn't anything left that he should be afraid of. By saying this, Gilgamesh says that you need to do what you want to do. You can't let the fear of something, or anything, in that matter, stop you from your own destiny. From the beginning, Gilgamesh also understands that he is destined for greatness. This shows that you must stick to your gut feeling and stick to who you know you are. The battle was so important for Gilgamesh's reputation because by killing Humbaba, he would be remembered forever. By doing so, he would be known forever as the one who killed the beast. He would be looked upon as one of the strongest men alive and would be looked upon as a hero. At this point, Gilgamesh knows that he will not live forever, but he also knows that his name can live on. Like I previously mentioned, while Gilgamesh was confident in the beginning of the story, he was also cruel. He is mean to everyone around him because he believes that is how a king or a god should act, but not necessarily what he feels. Enkidu helped him to become more aware of himself by having this connection to another person, which showed Gilgamesh how to be kind. This is later shown when Gilgamesh says, "I look at you, Uttanapishti. Your form is no different, you are just like me." Here he does not try to overpower Uttanapishti and does not feel so godly, but more like an actual person. He realizes his true self as still the powerful person, but also as a kind person. In conclusion, from the challenges of accepting who the monster is, the struggles that the characters in the complete Persepolis face by staying true to who they are, and the confident nature of Gilgamesh, I have learned that being true to yourself and embracing all of your differences and fears is what makes you human. If we were all the same, life would be boring, and there would be no stories like these to tell. It may seem like there are more prominent themes in these 3 texts previously mentioned, including the importance of companionship. While this is important, in order to have companionship, we must be able to love ourselves and all of our faults first.